Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today's February 14th, and right now we are looking at the visible satellite imagery with the Doppler radars overlaid. A little bit of light shower activity, may have been a little bit of wintry precipitation mix in there, but won't amount to much. You can see the bulk of this precipitation from our next system already moving into western Oregon. Cloud shield moving up across some of western Washington. Get out there and take a look at that. You can see it in the sky. If you look off to the south, for example, if you're across some of Seattle or Everett metropolitan area right now, just overtook Mount Rainier. So remember that here, where the position is of this precipitation, because this might bring some snowfall down here across southwest Washington and down into the Portland metro. And we'll look at the details on that here in a moment. But this is something I'm looking forward to for sure. Look at this. By March 10th, we go into daylight savings time. We put the sunsets after 7 p.m. Look at that, March 17th, 7:20 sunsets. Very nice. And we'll have over 12 hours of daylight at that point. Columbia River Gorge snow. Look at this, up to 1 foot near Parkdale, 2 to 3 feet on Mount Hood. Gusty easterly winds. Look at that, Cascade Locks 4 to 6 here, and some nice amounts across the southern Washington Cascades and the Oregon Cascades out of these systems through February 16th. Here we go, hazardous travel and some potential for some lowland snow. Best amounts, of course, across the higher terrain here. And if we take a look at Spokane National Weather Service, kind of shows you here, there is going to be kind of a band of snow trying to set up here. It might be a bit moisture starved, but look at that, 2 to 3 for Pullman. That's more than trivial amounts. Look out past 3 to 4. Blue Mountains, Southern Washington Cascades, Stevens Pass, Snoqualmie Pass, not too bad. 1 to 2 inches there, and you can see maybe Wenatchee picking up an inch as well. Now, if we go off in towards Montana, some of the valley areas, including Missoula, 1 to 3 inches. Higher terrain, of course, is going to do better. And just a heads up, Billings, Livingston, nice significant snowfall incoming here, as well as Yellowstone. Look at Old Faithful, 12 to 18 inches. And this should be wrapping up by Friday morning. There is a winter weather advisory out here for Olympia, some of the Kitsap Peninsula for up to 2 inches, but it will be a very wet, slushy snowfall that does accumulate, so it's not going to cause any kind of icy conditions across I-5. If it does stick on any kind of roadways in the lower elevations, you should be able to drive right over it, and it would melt and become wet because temperatures should be right above freezing for the majority of this event. Now, taking a look at the upper levels of the atmosphere, you can see the polar lobe kind of taking a swing at the Pacific Northwest, allowing some of that cooler air trying to filter out here. But most of that stays east of the Rockies and moves off to the southeast and will be a distant memory as we move through the upcoming weekend, as you can clearly see. Looking at sea level pressure, this is the European, and you can see BC, Washington, Oregon here, and I talked about the radar returns showing up, and that's because of this system out over the Pacific Ocean here trying to spread some moisture back up into the area. And the best snowfall amounts, again, why they have the winter weather advisory across southwest Washington, Kitsap Peninsula, it's going to be closer to the low there, and some of the easterly winds banking up against the Olympic Mountains. And if that precipitation is heavy enough, it could drag that snow level down towards the Portland metro briefly, but again, not expecting accumulations on a lot of the roadways out there. You still might see some flakes flying across Portland metro, and then tomorrow morning Seattle metro. That might look kind of crazy. It might even stick on some of the higher hills, mainly on cars and grassy surfaces and some of the bark surfaces out there and maybe some of the rooftops, but not expecting, that icy accumulation on the roadways. Taking a look at the North American model here, 80-meter wind speed, and you can kind of see the easterly component, the low pressure system off the coastline. It's pulling that chilly Arctic air or modified Arctic air back into the area. You can see it's pretty dry here at times across some of western Washington, but that precipitation is not a lot of it's going to get that far north, and you need that precipitation rate really to take advantage of that evaporative cooling here and to get the lower snow levels. So again, it's going to be a very marginal event here from the Portland metro up across southwest Washington and the Kitsap Peninsula, but it doesn't mean you're not going to see snowflakes at times, especially as you go through tomorrow morning for some of western Washington. Now, I also want to show you the accumulated max 10-meter wind gust. You've got the offshore winds already going here across the Fraser River Valley. And as we go through today, we're going to be picking up those winds across the gorge and through Stampede Gap here up towards Gold Bar and Sultan also. And as through tomorrow morning, you could have some gusts up, 50 plus here across some of maybe Black Diamond, Enumclaw, North Bend, Snoqualmie, and pretty gusty winds here also across, some of the Cascade areas. Again, Gold Bar out there as well. And as we go through Friday, check this out across the gorge. You might get some local gusts up over 60 miles per hour. We're going to get a low pressure center that approaches, and we're going to have some high pressure over the interior. So a nice cross Cascade gradient will be setting up here as we go through the day Friday into Friday night. And if you want a nice affordable home weather station, record all this crazy weather we get here in the Pacific Northwest, click on that link down below to save 10% off. Updates every 3 seconds. You can view it anywhere you can bring your smartphone. So Nice station. Taking a look at the North American model, and we saw how that precipitation is moving up across western Oregon. You can see it clearly there, and you can see it start to bring a little bit of snowfall here, southwest Washington, up the Kitsap Peninsula as our low pressure center right off of Astoria here. Some nice amounts across the Cascades. Tries to spread some of that moisture into eastern Washington as well. So don't be surprised if we see snowflakes tomorrow morning across some of the Seattle metro, but the best chance for accumulation is across some of the Kitsap Peninsula there. Maybe some of the higher hills, brief dusting as we go on through tomorrow. And then you can see that low just kind of get absorbed and fill off the coastline. And as we go through Friday, again, that next low pressure center is going to approach and keep that easterly gradient going all the way on through the day Friday. Looking at accumulated positive snow depth change in inches on the European. So this is the tricky forecast here. It's showing some of this accumulation happening even down towards the Portland metro, but it would be extremely slushy when it fell. The temperatures are just marginal. It doesn't show them getting down below freezing during this event. Anywhere from the Portland metro across southwest Washington and through Kitsap Peninsula even, it just kind of shows it hovering right above freezing for much of the event. So if there is some error in just how cold things get, then you could get a little bit more here, but right now we're not expecting a significant snowstorm out of this event. Look at the national blend of models. It shows something similar here, and again, closer to the low, the heavier precipitation is going to be, the better advantage you'll take of some of that evaporative cooling and bringing those lower snow levels. And it does show some decent amounts across the Kitsap Peninsula, affecting maybe 101 and Shelton out there and Olympia at times, and maybe Highway 12, especially across the higher terrain as you're going back and forth, maybe from Ocean Shores out towards Olympia or Seattle. You might get some sticking snow on some of the roadway out there. But again, look at those nice amounts across the Cascades of Washington, Oregon. Lesser amounts the further you go north. Taking a wider look at things here and off into the extended. This is the European ensemble mean, and I'll show you something the model's been showing for a few runs now, but you'll see the ridge and that polar lobe taking its weak swing at us, and the low pressure center there kicks off, and then the storm track gets focused into California for a few days, and then we try to set up this northwest flow, but we're still looking 10 plus days out, so I don't want to get anybody too excited here, but this does look like a pattern that could bring some chillier weather into the Pacific Northwest, kind of the classic ridge here in the north and northwest flow back into the Pacific Northwest. Pretty strong signal showing up on some of the ensembles here, but it's so far out there. You really got to take that with a grain of salt. They can easily change at that range. And looking at 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, above average here across Pacific Northwest. This is, February 19th there to February 23rd. And here's the precipitation kind of targeting California with these storms in this time period. And then we go 8 to 14 day, a little bit above average here, maybe some near normal. And then we start to bring some above average precipitation chances as we go towards the end of February. No promises on that just yet. We'll be watching it day by day. Here's the risk heavy precipitation. Does include the Pacific Northwest here, and we got the potential for some heavy snow, even though it is slight. That would include British Columbia here as well. We would definitely take it, and we definitely need it here across the higher terrain of much of the mountainous west. Here's a risk of high winds. You can see slight in this time frame here as well. Take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, interesting stuff. If you see that cloud shield out there, it kind of makes a nice scene when you go look outside. If this precipitation comes in a bit heavier than forecast here, we could drop the snow levels down a little bit more, but again, would be extremely marginal setup here. It'll be a very wet, slushy snow no matter where it falls across the lower terrain. You really got to get some elevation to get the better snowfall out of this event incoming. And if things start to trend snowy or anything, I'm going to do another video this afternoon, so I'll be watching closely as always. Hope you guys are liking these videos. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.